from talking with you last night, you were no exception. Your dad actually had to change his work schedule around to make sure you got here for every game.
That's right, Shane. I grew up at Skyline High School, and we lived on a dairy farm, and my dad milked cows, of course. And I remember like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, he would get up really, really early, milk the cows. We'd get in the old farm truck, drive to McDonald Arena, spend the whole day, and I'd fall asleep on the way back, and he went out and milked the cows again. But, really got me intrigued in basketball and seeing all the good players and the team. And just I would sit on that front row, and it'd be the bar. And I remember leaning up there, and, you'd get a hot dog and some popcorn and a soda maybe, and it was just a great time. And I just, as a kid, just absorbed it. And, one of the games I do remember was Dixon and John Brown and those guys. And they scored like 100 and some points. And I know as a kid, I looked at the scoreboard, and I'm not even sure it went over 100 or not. But I couldn't hardly believe they were scoring that many points. But the way they moved up and down the court and handled the ball and shot the ball really gave me some motivation as a player.
Speaking of 100 points, you mentioned on the way over here that I think the tournament director here, Darren Taylor, had 100 points put up on him by some team that you might have been familiar with.
Yeah, I think, back in the I'm not sure how many 100-point games you had against you. I think one. But, we had really good Marshall teams, and Hartville had really good teams. And Darren's, of course, an outstanding coach. And he had taken over the Hartville job, and he came to Marshville and Hartville. And they had a really – those families and the tradition of those schools just playing against each other. And it was about 60-40, Marshville winning, a little bit bigger school and stuff. And Darren says, "Hey, Coach, we're going to be dropping you." And I go, "Hey, Darren, it's such a good thing." "Well, we're going to be dropping you." I say, "Well, okay." So my pregame speech, all I did is walk in and say, Coach Taylor said they're dropping us and not playing us again. So we scored 108 points that night or something like that.
He says even 100. So.
Oh, even 100. Okay, I don't know. I think he quit counting after about 100. That's as far as his scorebook went. But
somebody called timeout to score.
Oh, okay. That might have happened. I don't know. Minutes to an hour of that was sprint, just solely pressing. So you didn't get any breaks. So the games were actually easy as far as conditioning went. We'd be up and down that floor just left and right. And back then they wouldn't give you a water break either. So I'm not surprised that we're still alive, some of us. But I think after some of those practices, I could have woven a cotton blanket with all the cotton I had in my mouth after practice. But it made you tough. They had a lot of farm kids. And, the tradition of the tournament, so many with Skyline and everybody else, people come back for this tournament, and they'd take time off of work, and they would meet. It'd be a family tradition. They'd see former players and stuff, and it was just a great time and just a great atmosphere.
As a junior, won the whole thing in the tournament, won all 4 games. Probably your 2 tougher games out of the bunch was second and third round. Went overtime in both of those games. The second round game, though, had kind of a crazy finish to it that you were a part of.
We're playing, I believe, Marshall, in that second round game, and coached by Frank Brandstetter, who had won a state championship at Nixon. Frank's a good friend and did a great job. And we're playing Marshfield, and, they hung in there. They hung in there with everybody that year. And we get up, and then there was a timeout. And I remember this like it was yesterday. And some kind of inbounds play with 13 seconds. Of course, they're trying to get the ball to me, and I was, handled the ball. I took off, and during the timeout, someone had spilled water on the floor and didn't get it up. I hit that, and both feet go up above my head, and my rear end hits the ground, and the ball went flying. And, we always taught to hustle. So some kid from Marshfield grabs it, goes in for this layup. Well, I'm trying to stop him before he gets the layup, make him shoot free throws. Well, guess what? He got the and one. So we were that close with like 2 seconds in that game to getting beat. Luckily, he missed the free throw. We go to overtime again, and we won it. So that was quite an experience as a player and stuff, and you learn from that. But it's one of those freak things that happens in basketball.
That was the overtime game in the second round. Beat Joplin Memorial in the semifinal. Another
overtime. Skyline didn't play very many overtime games, and for some reason in the blue and gold tournament, it seemed like we got into these games and. But we had a toughness about us on defense and offense, Shane, that we could come to play, and we didn't fold under the heat, so to speak. We stayed in there and played every possession, and they had a really good team. We ended up pulling that game out in overtime, and that put us into the finals.
Go to the final against Willard, and back at that time, Charlie Spoonhour, the great coach here at Southwest Missouri State at that time, had a great relationship with coaches, came to the games. When you played Willard, of course, back then it was small, medium, and large size classifications. Willard was a bigger school, and Charlie went to their coaching staff and said, "Hey, what are you going to have to do to beat Jackie Payne?" And I think he got some bad advice, maybe.
It was really funny. If you know Charlie, he was a great coach, a great person, and he had such a sense of humor and wit and sarcasm about him that he could make any moment, a great moment. So. He talked to Coach Gould before the game because they kind of knew each other and stuff. And of course, he knew me as a kid. He tried to recruit me and stuff. But he said, "What are you going to do with Skyline and with me?" And Bill said he had these big, tall dudes. And he said, "We're just going to hand it over on that press all the way down the floor." And he said, "What are you going to do with me?" He said, "Well, we won't worry about him. We'll put a big guy in front of him or something." So I heard that later on. But we got super pumped for that game and came out and played. And before I get to the game, I'll tell you, so they have a get together after the game, and Coach Larry Atwood would get the staff together and the workers together somewhere, and they would meet, and they'd have kind of a social thing after the blue and gold tournament was over, the championship. And so a lot of people were there. I mean, I wasn't there, I was a kid, but I heard this story later. Atwood told me this story later that so Spoonhour shows up a little bit late for this, and he goes in, and the first question he asked, and this is after we beat Willard, was, "Where's Billy?" He called him Billy. "Where's Billy?" And they had this table with these curtains down, or hanging over the side, and somebody pointed down there underneath the deal, and so Spoonhour goes over and lifts up the tablecloth thing, and there's Gould down there, probably with the adult beverage, and say, "Hey, Billy, what'd you do with that Skyline press? And how did Payne get 29 points on you?" So, I mean, just funny stories like that go back and forth. But the Willard game, Gary Sell, Angus, those guys, they were very talented. They took third in the state of Missouri in Class M. And like you said, they were L, large, medium, and small. We were, of course, a small school. And we were 29-3 that year, and except for a couple of injuries, might have had a shot of winning the whole thing. But anyway, we go play them, and I remember the first game. I remember the first quarter in that game very vividly. It was 13-10 as a score, but I scored 10 of our 13 points, and 4 of them would have been 3-pointers, but we didn't have the 3-point shot back then. They packed it in, and you had to get really deep against them to shoot over those guys. And, one of those games where you're in the zone, and we extended our lead at halftime, and our teammates did a great job of getting the ball, and I was hot and, made free throws and made shots and, put in 29 points that game. And actually we more or less held the ball the last quarter. So, we really didn't try to shoot very much. So other than getting to the free throw line, but it's a great game. And it really helped, Skyline and our tradition and, get winning the blue and gold. I don't care what team you're from. It's just something you'll never forget the rest of your life.
Get into coaching after that, after graduation, go to St. James, spend 6 years there, have a lot of success at St. James. Then you get the call to go to Marshfield.
Yeah.
And you would think after having the success you had, that would be a tough decision, but you wanted to get back in the area.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, we had a team at my 4th year there, we were state ranked. And my 5th year there at St. James, we were 26-1 and, got beaten in the district championship by St. Francis Borgia by 4. But anyway, we ran the table, had a really good team, really good program coming on. But Jack Howard, you've probably heard of Jack Howard and all the Howard girls. He was superintendent at Marshfield. And he called, and he'd watched me as a player and watched me, kept up with the coach. And Marshfield was open. And I went down and visited with him. And he basically said, I think we got people here, players here. We just got to learn how to play and do things right. So I took that job. And one major thing, I wanted to get back to the blue and gold tournament. I wanted to get back to the blue and gold tournament, playing the blue and gold tournament as both a player and a coach, and it was such a great tournament. So that was a main reason I came. And lo and behold, the first year, one of the main teams was Gary McDaniel and Rogersville. They were state, and they were outstanding. And our first game of the year in a tournament, we played Rogersville. Well, it wasn't the first game, second game. We played Rogersville in the tournament early. They beat us 34. Then we play them a week later, 10 days later, they beat us 21. I told our guys, I said, I know how to beat them if we can just do a few things and this and that. So we were seated 5th in the blue and gold, and then we won, and we played West Plains and beat them. And so now it's set up Rogersville and us in the semifinals. And I don't think our kids had been that far. I know our Marshfield had been that far in a long time. So we go out there and play, and we get a lead, and then we hold the ball on them. They had to chase it around. We made free throws and won by about 9 or 10. So that propelled us into the finals game, and that was just a great experience for everyone.
Well, that was in 1985. That win against Rogersville, your 100th career win at that time. Lost in the championship game, but anyone that's been around this tournament for any time at all has heard of the 1985 championship night. That was just something else to be a part of.
Yeah, that was I don't know how much Hammond Center holds. They said 9,000, 9,500, but they had like 300 people outside lined up with the fire marshal. So somebody had to walk out before somebody could come in. Now, we weren't the featured attraction. I guess not, but we were. No, it was Kickapoo and Nick. So they had the big guns and the South Side rivalry and all that was going on. So we played the first game. They played the second game, but talk about an experience going from our Marshfield kids winning 5 or 6 games the year before, and now we're suddenly in the blue and gold championship game and playing in front of 9 or 10,000 people. That was a great experience, and again, something those kids won't forget, and I won't forget. So just a great night for basketball here in Springfield.
So that was your first year there. Next year, you come back to the blue and gold, win the whole thing as a coach. A big win over Van Buren at that time, 64-61. Won it again 2 years later. So a lot of success with that team in this tournament.
Yeah, we, Marshfield, Scott Purrier covered a lot of the games back there. Everybody knows Scott. I want to mention, Ned Reynolds on Channel 3. Everybody watched him. Scott Purrier, Marty Edelman, Amble Welch. They really did a great job with the newspaper covering things. So, yeah, we came back. We have David Lurvey, Jeff Jones, Scott Odell. We have a good returning cast coming back to this tournament, and we were pretty good. That team averaged 81 points a game without a 3-point shot. So we get into that tournament. I'm trying to think who even played the first round, but we won that, and then we go on and we get to Franklin Brownie Smith. Well, I'm trying to think, probably missed his first name, but he was a legend, and he had won like 600 games. And here I am, a young pup, my 7th year being a head coach, and my first coaching in the, our second coaching in the blue and gold. So we get to the finals and play, and it was like a chess match. It really was. He was so smart. His players were so fundamentally sound, and we had to change things and do this and do that and do that and do that. Came right down to the wire, and I think we won 64-61 for Marshfield's first ever blue and gold championship.
And I'm not sure what it is with you in this tournament and crazy finishes, but you had mentioned a few years later you took on West Plains, Steve Hunter, the coach there at that time, who just picked up his 700th win as a coach just this last week. But that was another crazy game you had. Yeah,
this was later on, like in 1993, and we're playing Steve. Of course, Steve's outstanding coach, and I play, George Wilson, Gary McDaniel, Denny Hunt, Terry Ryder. I grew up in the COC playing against those guys right off the bat. I mean, you get an education early. You're either going to learn and go on, or you're going to be a real estate guy somewhere or a banker. And so we learned that. But we get against Steve in that game, and I remember they had a 1-point lead, 30 seconds to go. I had Corey Garrison on that team, a brother of Casey Garrison, who was Lady Bear and all that, and Marty Garrison family. And we come down, so we're going to hold the ball. We hold it for one shot, down one. He thought he was going to shoot it, in case we missed. And we go dribble in, spread out, run four corners. Garrison attacks, drops it off to this Chisholm kid. He lays it in. We go up one with like 2 seconds, 3 seconds on the clock. And Steve calls timeout. And I still remember this game also. So we get in our defensive stance, and they run kind of like Duke did with Leitner. They ran their post guy up to the free throw, up to the top of the key, and he caught it. But before he caught it, he put his arms around this kid, Letterman kid I had, and just held him. This kid couldn't go around him any way possible. And they threw it, and he just turned around and shot it, and it goes in. So as far as losses go, that's probably one of my most disappointing losses in the blue and gold tournament. But it was a heck of a game for the fans and two really good teams playing each other.
There are only 4 people I can ask this question of, and you're one of those 4. There are only 4 individuals that have won the blue and gold as a player and as a coach. And I asked you this last night. You didn't have the answer for me then because it was such a tough question. But just in your opinion, which is more memorable, which is more special, winning it as a player or winning it as a coach?
Well, that's really a tough one. I really think it was so special being a young kid and winning the blue and gold as a player has stood out, because that is, you get 4 chances, you get 4 years in high school. As a coach, you got hopefully a lot of years and chances to go. So I think that being a player was more special, honestly, and being around my teammates, Jerry Bybee and all those guys, working so hard in practice that you had that kind of family thing. And then you go into coaching and you develop your other basketball family by coaching these kids. I mean, it's really special too. It's really close. I mean, really, really close.
And by the way, the year that he won it as a player, he was the tournament's leading scorer that year. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So, we played to our strengths. I passed it to other people when they're open or if they were a better shooter than I did. So I didn't get all that many assists that year, but that's kind of a joke. That's what my teammates say. He only shot it when he had it in his hand. So, but that's why you do rebounding drills also. So I was lucky to play with some really good players, and our defense was good, and we did a good job, and everybody did what they had to for our teams to be successful.
A couple closing thoughts, just your memories in general, and we had this discussion last night. You really go back to just the tradition of this tournament and how there is so much camaraderie amongst coaches, players, fans, officials. Doesn't matter who it is. This tournament's just extremely special.
Oh, it really is special, and you hit the nail on the head there, Shane. People come back and they know you as a player, and then later on they tell you, well, I watched you as a player. Now they're watching you as a coach, and all the teams, and like people take, like say, vacations and things. They come back and meet. It's just a gathering place. One other kind of note about the blue and gold tournament, in the year when I was at Marshfield, and we have Lurvy and those guys, we won it. Nixa won it with Craig Noggle. And the blue and gold had always wanted to have, or people always wanted, well, let the 2 winners play, but you can only play a 16-team tournament in Missouri. They wouldn't let a 32-team thing go. Well, just lo and behold, and I don't know how many times this has happened, but it did happen. So Marshfield was playing Nixa the first game back from the blue and gold. So, I mean, Marshfield was totally packed. And of course, it was packed a lot of times there at Marshfield. We go play these guys, and we're down. I remember this game too. We're down 6 points at halftime, and usually we weren't down at halftime. And we came out and we threw that 1-3-1 matchup, 3/4 court trap on them, and outscored them 18-3. So we went from 3 down to 9 up, if my math is right. And then we get into the fourth quarter, and I had Dale Fraker and Tony Valha and Brad Jones and so on, and some really good players. And Tony Valha was about 6'3", but he was the guy that does everything on your team. Guards, handles the ball, rebounds, smart, passes, everything, scores some. He all of a sudden turned around and he got elbowed in the eyebrow, and it was bleeding and everything else. And we didn't have trainers back then. So I looked at my assistant and said that Ron Cummins, I said, go get a butterfly him or bandage him up. So he takes him in the locker room back there. He couldn't find a butterfly bandage. He just sticks the bandage on, and he puts pre-wrap around his head, and then he tapes it on. So he comes out. He looks like he's has one of these big like Muslim things that they wear. And he comes in, and I go, Coach, I said, what did you do? He said, I couldn't find a tape. And so he said, I said, well, get in there and play. So we got in there and played, and we won the game. So that was another kind of a highlight when the two teams met.
Well, Jackie, really appreciate you taking some time to come up and share your thoughts on the tournament and your rich tradition in this. Wanted to bring you in and let you have a little bit of recognition for what you've done, both as a player, as a coach. We really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Shane. Like I say, it's been great being in the Blue and Gold, being around both player and coach, and I have so many memories from this tournament. I just appreciate Darren and everybody for keeping the tradition going, keeping it going.
And
Thank you very much.
By the way, probably tomorrow about this time, you'll be a grandfather for the 15th time.
15th time,
All right.
number 15.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, that's all in the works. So I'm a busy guy today and tomorrow and through this weekend.
All right, Jackie, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do a little bit of rearranging here for just a minute. We'll let Jackie step aside as we are now ready to reveal the bracket, the seeds, and the pairings for the 77th Blue and Gold tournament. So bear with us for just a second. Okay, so Vanna is in place, and we are ready to flip these over as it has come time for the seeds and matchups. Earlier this morning, members of the media and other dignitaries met to seed and literally draw out of a hat the opponents for both divisions. And a reminder again, as in years past, there will be two sites for the opening round. Blue division will be played at Hammond Student Center, Gold over at Great Southern Bank Arena. And then moving forward, the consolation bracket will be at Hammond's with the winners bracket games all being held over at the Vault. We will start with the seeded teams first. We will start with our top seeds and work our way down. Last year, after winning the Gold Division Championship, the top seed now in the Blue Division will be the Bolivar Liberators with head coach Robbie Hoy. And in a role of reversals, last year's Blue Division champions, the Nixa Eagles, will be the number one seed in the Blue Division under their first-year head coach, Brock Blancy. 2 seed in the Blue Division will go to the Republic Tigers. And the 2 seed in the Gold goes to the Rogersville Wildcats. Back to the Blue Division, where the 3 seed, the Hartville Eagles, after championships in 2019 and 2020. And the 3 in the Gold, the Stratford Indians. On to the 4 seeds in the Blue, the Ozark Tigers. And the 4 seed in the Gold, one of the 2 Springfield Public Schools entries, the Parkview Vikings. Actually, 13 teams this year with head coaching changes. Jack Simpson now, the head coach at Parkview. 5 seed in the Blue. We welcome back to the tournament for the first time since 2000, the Sparta Trojans and head coach Derek Link. And in the Gold, the Fairgrove Eagles will be the 5 seed. 6 seed in the Blue Division, the Camdenton Lakers with their new head coach, Daniel Edson. And the host for the event, champions back in 2019 and 20, the Greenwood Blue Jays, will be the 6 in the Gold. The other Springfield School entry, the Hillcrest Hornets, are the 7 seed in the Blue Division. And the 7 seed in the Gold, the Lebanon Yellow Jackets. And the final 2 seeded teams, the 8 seed in the Blue, the Ash Grove Pirates. And the Marshfield Blue Jays claim the 8 seed in the Gold Division with their new head coach, John Cherney. There you have the seeded teams. Now for the matchups. Again, this was literally drawn out of a hat earlier this morning. I think that was Kent Hedgepeth's hat. So if you don't like your draw, you can blame Kent. We're going to go in reverse order with the matchups. We will start with the 9:30 a.m. games on Monday, December 26th. In the blue division, Ash Grove will play the Skyline Tigers. And the gold, the opponent for Marshville will be the West Plains Scissors. The 7-seeded teams, they will play at 5 o'clock that opening day. And in the blue division, Hillcrest's opponent will be the Spokane Owls and their new head coach, Newt Sterry. And for Lebanon, they take on the Willard Tigers, with J.J. Adamson making the move from coaching the Lady Tigers to coaching the boys team. The 8 o'clock game on the first round, 6-seeded Camden will play the Mount Vernon Mountaineers in the blue division. And Greenwood takes on Willow Springs and their new head coach, Dustin Forrest. The 5 seeds will play at 12:30 for the blue division. The Trojans drew the Panthers for Mountain Grove. They also have a new first-year head coach, Nick Openshaw. And in the gold, Fair Grove will take on the Crane Pirates. The 2 o'clock games featuring the 4 seeds in the blue division, Ozark takes on the Reeds Spring Wolves. And Parkview takes on the Branson Pirates and their new head coach, Pete McBride. The nightcap on the first day, being played at 9:30 for the 3 seeds. For Hartville, they drew the Buffalo Bison in the blue. And for the gold, Stratford has the Hound Dogs of Aurora. Down to our final 4 pairings. The 2 seeds play their games at 6:30. At Hammonds, it's the Tigers and the Tigers, Republic and Stockton. Stockton's new head coach is Andrew Boone. Rogersville will have the Ava Bears. Ava and their new head coach, Riley Jenkins. And finally, the top seeds will hit the floor at 11 o'clock on opening day. Bolivar will square off with the Fighting Irish of Catholic. All-time winningest coach in blue and gold history, Jay Osborne, the new head coach at Catholic. And the Knicks Eagles in the gold division will play the Clever Blue Jays. While Jays, the all-time winningest coach, Blue Jays' new head coach, Zach Klein, is the tournament's all-time leading scorer with 288 points. And there you have it, the bracket for the 77th annual Greenwood Blue and Gold Tournament. Brackets are now free to be released on media outlets. Fans, single day, and tournament passes can be purchased at Great Southern Bank Arena. Once again, a special thanks to Chevy dealers of the Ozarks, Missouri State University, Matt Jones, and the entire group here. On behalf of Greenwood Lab School, we invite everyone out for the holiday tradition, a week full of basketball, December 26th through the 29th, the Blue and Gold Tournament. We'll see you after Christmas.
I got some pictures.
You gotta do all this stuff.
I'll send those to you. Do you want to